Okay, I think we're live. Hi, I'm Jim Hodgson, director of the Scene Shop. We are a connected comedy group. We work on comedy writing projects together, but also our separate projects, and we workshop jokes and help each other with stand up and sketch writing and screenwriting and novels and all that stuff. So you can find out about us at thesceneshop.us. So my thinking here is that if we're practicing safe social distancing, we might as well get a little bit of work done. Now, the rumor is that Shakespeare used his quarantine to write the play King Lear. And I thought it would be funny to do a Hollywood style reboot of King Lear. And by Hollywood style, I mean with zero knowledge of the actual work, zero observation of canon or anything like that. So that's what we're going to try to do. And I'm thinking that we'll try to do an episode each day because to try to write a connected work over 2 weeks, I think would be asking a lot because most stuff like that ends up working because you've gone back and rewritten it, which we may end up doing. But anyway, so today, let's get started with King Lear. Now, my plan is to do this at 1 o'clock my time, which is Eastern Daylight Time. So that should be around 6 o'clock UK time and 10 or 11 in the morning LA time. I'm open to moving it if that would help people join us. So let's see. Let's get started. That changing scenes seems to have worked. Okay. What do you need to know? Almost nothing. In fact, the more that you know about actual Shakespeare, probably the more irritated you will be with me and with this project. So it's best if you're not familiar with it. But basically, we're gonna start. We're gonna start with just a few facts. Our main character is going to be Kent, and at the end of King Lear, Kent sort of has the chance to rule England, but he chooses not to because that, in his mind, that would be to betray Lear, who he followed all the time. So basically, we're just going to start with the character Kent. But again, we're going to ignore most of King Lear the play because first of all, to try to observe it would be onerous. It would take too much time, and yeah, that's basically the only reason. Okay, so King Lear 2, day 1. Kent has just declined to rule England and has gone off, possibly to kill himself. Although we're gonna gloss over that, I think, because it seems it's pretty heavy. But anyway, he's in a state of despair. Um, so we're starting this with just like um, Kent is going to be our. I think because he takes himself so seriously, he's going to have to be like our straight man. Um, Even though the fact that he takes himself so seriously um, will make him insane. I'm thinking about so I'm thinking about how to structure how to build the rest of the story and the moving parts that I need. So if my main character is going to be this kind of guy, then everyone else can be sort of regular folks. Uh, and if I think a good example of this kind of story or this kind of character structure would be something like Dumb and Dumber, where your main characters are insane, but they follow their own rules. They're not chaotic. I mean, they are, but they follow their own rules. Um, so I'm trying to think what King Lear, excuse me, what Kent could find. So we want him he's in despair. We want him to find something. Oh, I left my text on here. We want him to find something is that will be at odds with where he's at mentally. Um, so I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of somebody who's that sort of dedicated. what's it like? What's it like to be sort of a professional, a second or like a professional lieutenant, and to have your leader go away because that's where Kent is because Lear died. So spoiler. Um, I think you're just lost, and I think you're probably having thoughts about whether or not you should have devoted that much of yourself to following somebody else, right? So uh, that leaves us open to Kent over the course of our story, learning that like he should follow himself, kind of, or like he should be his own man. And I'm just saying that because it's the kind of thing you want to have in the back of your head because um, it'll guide you as you go along. So I'm thinking about. I keep coming back to the circus. Like, finds? What if he runs into like the circus, and he somehow gets swept up with them? How about that? I can't remember. Let's say he's leaving London and he finds the circus on the outskirts. But we would also need him to kind of like we would need him to kind of like I like the Joseph Campbell thing of denying the call, the denial of the call. Now this is mixing story structure parts because normally I'm, especially for shorter stuff, I think more in terms of three act. But I often do include a save the cat moment, which is the Blake Snyder thing, and I like the denial of the call because I think even though I just think that's a good element, like, and I think that you see it often, especially in yeah. So I think he's going to run into the circus, and they're going to be like, "Hey, you could come along with us," and then he would say, "No, no, no, I'm yeah." So my thought is that we would need to write some way for a circus person to come across him. Like maybe he's so maybe we open with Lear like on a bridge, and I'm thinking like we open with Lear and he's about to jump off of a bridge into the Thames, I guess, because that would be, iconic. But he's not, he's just sort of, he's like balancing there and he hasn't quite tipped over because he's having the thought in his mind, you know, if I make this, as soon as I make this decision, it's made. The decision is made. There's no taking it back once I'm in free fall. And as he's having these thoughts in his mind, this is a comedy, by the way. Excuse me. So as he's having those thoughts, he's like he's teetering on sort of the stone, like not a handrail, but whatever they have in stone bridges, crenellations, if you like. And he's just sort of teetering there, and he's kind of moving back and forth, and he's thinking in his mind, and the circus train is coming around the corner, and he's so he readies himself, like, what is this about to be? And the circus and all their brightly painted wagons come and they start to cross the bridge, and it's just a he's just annoyed that they're making so much noise, and he's wanting them to go by. But one of the carts stops and sees him standing there, and the driver of that wagon calls out to him, and then we have an exchange between the person on the wagon and Kent. And the person on the wagon is noticing that Kent can balance on as he's doing, and says, and kind of offers him a job. And Kent is no, 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 you know, I'm not doing this because I'm good at because I'm good at balancing. But he doesn't want to say what he's really doing because he's English and he would hide everything. Okay, so let's write as far as we got. I know I just said a lot, so I want to try to remember it before it's gone. There is a noise. I'm thinking that the circus needs to be leaving London, because if it's arriving, he doesn't want to be where he is. So if it's arriving, he would never. I mean, you can't run away and join the circus if it's coming to your neighborhood, right? Okay. Ken looks up to see color in the distance. Cartwheels rattle on the street as the circus pulls into view. Maybe so. Like, maybe he could have climbed down and just walked away and waited on the regular ground for them to go by. But he dithered. He waited too long. So now he can't. He doesn't want to jump in front of the circus people, but he can't get down because there's not enough room on the bridge for him to get down. So he's stood there and dithered so long that now he doesn't have any choice but to continue to balance. So yeah, he can't. His only choice is to. So I'm imagining moments where now he's balancing on the thing, and the cart drivers are coming by and looking at him like, what are you doing? And there's moments where he's just gonna have to like, yes, I see you, you see me, we see each other. I know, but I'm not offering an explanation. You're just gonna have to deal with the fact that I'm standing on this thing. But thankfully, okay. So now we're to the moment where we need our circus person who's going to be Kent's entry into it. So what should this person be like? If Kent takes himself very serious, so seriously that he's a little bit silly and a little bit weird because he'll pretend to be somebody else if he needs to. If he takes himself that seriously, then this person should probably be a very much happy-go-lucky, but also moves effectively in their own sort of world, right? That's what I'm thinking. Because we want characters that so we can have some kind of conflict. What should that person's name be? Uh, let's see. We'll just go to a name generator. English name generator. There we go. Hayden. That's the first response. This person's name will be Hayden. We don't need to know that right now, but we'll find out later. Why does he say what here? Because he just wants this moment to be over. So would he say what, or he would probably just say no? So the man is trying to talk him into it. Pays well. Yeah. So the guy doesn't care. The man who we will come to know as Hayden doesn't care. He's just saying if you can balance like that, then I can offer you a job in the circus. Okay, so the carts move on. Yeah, so he looks up. This is nighttime. Kent looks up at the moon. Now I'm tempted to make a comparison here and say, you know, he's the circus is gone, and so he's sort of calming himself for this moment, and he's looking at the moon and he's thinking, it's a beautiful night, moon shining, and I'm thinking that this would be a good opportunity to make a comparison between the moon and the sun, and so Lear could have that thought of, that he was like the moon and Lear was the sun of his world. So, but I don't know if that would work because I don't know if in Shakespeare's time they knew that the moon was the sun's reflection. It seems like they could have gotten it by then, but I'm not entirely sure. And also, that maybe is a little too dramatic for what we're trying to do here. But let's do it anyway. So we need something to happen now. So I think he's going to make the choice. I think he's going to go on and jump off of the bridge. But we need something to happen that makes it that so he has to go and follow the circus and be part of the circus. So what could happen? I'm thinking in terms of like he falls, he jumps, but his cape gets caught on the bridge, and then it rips as he's falling, and it causes him to spin. He lands awkwardly, but it also sort of absorbs some of the energy, so he lands awkwardly in the water, and it doesn't kill him. Or he lands on a sheep that's swimming in the water. Uh, yeah, something like that. Maybe both. Yeah, I think both. I once got some really good advice, which was if you have a good idea, if you have two good ideas and you're working on one thing, put both of the good ideas into the thing. Don't try to save good ideas for the next thing. Put them all in the thing. Not that these are necessarily good ideas because we're talking about a man landing on a sheep, but just saying. He has misjudged. I'm thinking like, why am I not hearing the audio anymore? Is this not working? Hello. Is something going nuts? Hey, can't hear this anymore. Hey, 1 2. Check 1. Well, that's weird. Okay, now it's back. He's misjudged the depth of the water. He lies in the mud. So my thinking is that he if he's made this choice to do himself harm, he's made it because he feels he sort of wants to make a statement about how deeply he felt about his former master, right? So maybe it's enough for him in a way that he made a serious effort to kill himself. And that now that he's through no fault of his own, it wasn't he didn't botch it because he was trying to botch it. He just his cape caught on the bridge. He got choked. He spun. He fell into a he hit a sheep. So maybe that's enough for him now. So we could sort of end a scene there. So I'm thinking like I could end this scene by like we could end this scene with him thinking just lying there in the mud and sort of thinking to himself like what am I going to do now? But I think better to just go on and open it with him catching catching up to the circus. So yeah, we'll open the next scene with our character Hayden. Setting up his yeah. So how has Kent followed the circus? Well, they weren't that far away, were they? And the road only goes probably doesn't go too many places, so it seems plausible that he could have found him. So this guy Hayden is like pounding tent pegs into the earth. Damn it. And this wet, muddy person wanders into camp. Yeah. So we'll have an exchange here that's like like you changed your mind. I'm wondering how much Kent wants to talk about that. He probably doesn't want to talk too much about what he was doing. So he's probably just like, I'm cold and I had nowhere else to go. So it'll be, yeah. Because he can't go back to town. He can't go back to the life that he knew previously and say, I tried to jump off a bridge and I choked myself and landed on a sheep. So, yeah. Probably Kent would just say, maybe he would just say, can you help me? And Hayden says, yes. I was just thinking of starting a fire. Then Kent starts to. Hayden can see on Kent's face that he's thinking, what do I say to make this, you know, what do I say to explain how I came to be here? And we'll have Hayden just say, look, don't sweat it. Oops. So this will be a good moment for Hayden. We find out a little bit about him, about his character, and about the world that Kent has now entered. So what does he say? He needs to let. He wants to. We want him to let Kent know that. Um, that he doesn't have to explain, but we need a way for him to kind of say that, like, in the circus we don't ask questions. The circus. What would they do? What if Kent keeps inserting himself into different areas of the circus, and what he's trying to do is end his own life, but he keeps failing at it, and he keeps getting more and more sort of accolades. So it's like, as long as he's trying to do himself harm, he gets hurt, but that's what I'm thinking. So the first time was when he's balancing on the thing, and yeah. His throat is sore from where he dangled by the cape, and maybe he's gonna have like some bumps and bruises where he bounced off the herd of sheep. What sort of injuries does one get when one falls on a herd of sheep and bounces off? What if he had something really funny like a hoof print, like a clear sheep hoof print, like on his neck? Yeah, I think like like one of the sheep stepped on his neck, and he has a bruise in the shape of a hoof print, and people think it's a hickey, and they keep asking him about it because they think he's been like making out with somebody, but actually he got his neck stepped on by a sheep. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so let's go back, which is painful. Yeah. Okay. So Kent wakes up the next morning, throat sore from where he dangled from his cape and where he got trod on. So Hayden's thinking that he'll cheer him up by reminding him that he was making out with somebody, and that's how he got this hickey on his neck. Do people say hickey? Do you guys know what a hickey is? Someone's been necking in a dark corner. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Okay, so we'll have to have him. We'll have to have something like, like like why does he say Mary Band? Because it's a Robin Hood reference. Kent doesn't want to be in the circus, but he can't go back, and he doesn't have anything, and he's feeling embarrassed by the fact that he tried to kill himself and failed. So he probably wouldn't say anything here. He'd just be sort of sullen. But what do you do in that situation but just say what you're feeling? And that is a thing about Kent that when you read treatments of criticisms of King Lear, it's like, well, he always said loudly what he thought, even when it was painful to others and or himself. So I don't want to. I mean, I think we can come back later and rewrite some of this stuff to make it make a little bit more sense. I can't go home. I need a tightrope walker. I need a tightrope walker. Um, the pay's not very good. But there are no questions. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So it's like I can't. Yeah, I think Hayden's trying to make the point that you can start over here. Yeah. Let me also just say that if you get to this, if you're working on something like this, because I'm having this thought right now, like I'm moving through this story, and I'm this is supposed to be like a free, like a comedy writing free session thing, and it's not exactly a laugh a minute right now. And I just think in order to make something like this funny, you first got to have sort of the structure of the thing. Now, if we were doing this with other folks, like in a writer's room, there would be lots of pitches and shouting and hooting and hollering, like, what if he blah, blah, blah. And we'd be able to do that right now. But because I'm doing this kind of by myself at the moment, there's not a lot of that, which makes it hard in Act Two because I'm having to sit here by myself and think, okay, what you've heard me do it. But I'm just saying, if you get to if you're trying to write something that you're intending to be humorous, don't let it worry you if it's not a laugh a minute on the first time through, because the first thing you got to do is get the bones of the house, and then you can put the walls and the the windows and all that stuff. Yeah, I need a tightrope walker. The pay's not very good, but there are no questions. I dig that. So then we'll have Kent have this. Yeah. So he has him set up the tightrope so he's able. So now we'll have a moment where Hayden's showing him, like, this is how we do it. We set up the rope and we tighten it, and then you walk on it. And so Hayden will show him, like, sitting and standing and tumbling and juggling. Excuse me, jugging is, I don't think that's a thing. And so Kent is must be he'd have to be watching all of this and thinking, could this be a life that I could lead? Could I become the person? And he'd have to be thinking, this looks he looks like he's having fun. He looks like he's enjoying himself. He's juggling. And so Kent, he'll be like full of these positive feelings for the first time since Lear passed away. He's full of these positive feelings, and he goes up on the rope, and he has a couple of steps of enjoyment, and then he falls and hits the ground very hard. Yeah, because if a recurring joke is going to be that Kent keeps trying different areas of the circus and keeps failing, like, I think it's an interesting rule of the universe that if he's trying, then he fails. Like if he tries to be a tightrope walker, like seriously tries to be a tightrope walker, then he fails and hurts himself. But if he later on tries to be a lion tamer, except he's not really trying, what he's trying to do is get the lion to kill him, then he's going to fail at that and actually be a really good lion tamer. You get it? So Kent sees. Obviously has a knack for it. Yeah, something like that. And then we'll have Hayden would have to do something like, how does Hayden react to that? He would say like, "Yeah, that's tightrope walking." Uh, yeah, something like, and then we'll have a. So he'll say that bitterly, like I've seen worse, talking about his own landing in the sheep. And then so we're getting to the end of this episode, I think. Yeah. So Hayden will say something like, well, don't worry, tightrope walking is not for everybody. There's plenty of other things that you could do in the circus, and then Kent would just respond to this by going like, meh, as he's. or something along those lines. So like, you know, how else could we end? So I guess what I'm driving at here is that Kent still is having thoughts of just ending his life and ending humiliation. And maybe he's thinking like, you know, he doesn't have any fear because he doesn't really care what happens to him. You'd never survive. You can't have that second that. So I'm thinking that, yeah, I think we'll end with him being like, yeah, like he immediately wants to do it again. And we could explain this by Kent having thoughts of like, sure, it ended terribly and he took a nasty fall, but he had a few steps there where it felt really good. Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll just end right there with I will go again. Okay. So this has been free comedy writing session King Lear 2, the reboot. What will this become? I don't know. Probably it could very well be like this the whole time that I'm doing it. It could be just me babbling to myself about, you know, a silly story about the King Lear 2. But we're social distancing, so we're at home, and it's always best to keep some momentum going with your comedy writing endeavors. And if you're if you're interested, if you want to come along and help me write this silliness, or you've got your own stuff to write, that's what this is about. So I don't know how long this will go on, but my plan is to do it daily until this sort of self distancing thing is over. So a couple weeks. So join me tomorrow around 1 o'clock. I'm As long as you're following the Scene Shop on Twitter and Facebook and my Twitter and stuff like that, you'll see the invite to it. Excuse me. Technically, this seems to have worked out well, which I'm surprised that like the streaming and everything seems to have worked. So come along, come and pitch ideas, have a laugh, write some jokes, and we'll see how this goes. We could change this to just like an open joke writing session, maybe, if that's what you guys would prefer. I'm down for whatever. I just want to, have some fun, write some comedy, and just be in the sort of mental state of moving forward rather than staying stagnant. So hope everybody's being safe out there and staying healthy. And thanks for coming along. My name is Jim Hodgson. This is the Scene Shop thing. And I almost always forget what I want to say at the end of these things. So that's why I end up sort of just babbling at the end. All right, I'm going to end it. All right, thanks. You're the best. Come with me tomorrow. Let's do more comedy.